The path of product development and entrepreneurship is challenging. That's why we talk with industry experts who share their uncensored advice in order to help you, the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs, successfully take your ideas from conception to fruition. This is The Variable. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Variable. My name is Russ Clough, and I am excited to have my co-hosts Andre Cotan and Justin Adleff joining me on the show today. Hey, Andre, how's life going for you, bud?
So good.
So good? What's so good about life right now? Go ahead.
Oh, I love my job. So
you love your job,
do it,
man. If you love your job, you're supposed to, like, you know, what does it say? If you love your job, you never work a day in your life, kind of a thing. So,
I work.
What was that? Oh, I work. Isn't that the truth? Well, I mean, there's some truth to that for sure. Man, glad to have you with us. Justin is going to be joining us in just a few. But in the meantime, I would love for you, Andre, I'm going to kill the music. I'd love for you to start us off with our food for thought segment.
Yeah, so when I was brainstorming to come up with the concept of what we're going to talk about today, it dawned on me, we need to talk about the dry spell.
Oh.
And so that is that moment, right, where you're staring at the blank proverbial canvas, your screen, your a blank sheet of paper in front of you. It doesn't matter. And you are sitting there, and that spark of inspiration is just not coming.
Not coming there.
And I wanted to address the things that I have experienced in my life that has helped me, and maybe those things can help you.
Sure, I want to hear.
And so, number one, when I'm sitting there in that environment and wherever I'm at, work, desk, doesn't matter, and I'm trying to come up with the solution, right? Start to explore that design space and to look for that solution.
Mm-hmm.
Creation is an act of hope, and
It
so
is.
if I'm not mentally in a good place, and I feel hopeless, then how can I expect myself to come up with, to create and to put something out there and to explore that space if I'm not mentally in a good place? And so first bullet that I would say that I typically take stock of is, am I in a mentally good place to do this? And if not, addressing that.
Okay.
Second is, for some people, environment is so important. I have a UI UX designer that I've worked with in the past. If he doesn't have a lot of sunshine, he's not in a good place.
Okay.
Like mentally.
Yeah.
And he struggles. And so quite literally, I have to make sure that he is in a room or in a space where he has lots of sunshine so that he can perform and do what he needs to be able to do. And so if that's something that's important to you, if environment with lots of colors or an interesting environment that inspires you, and that's something that that you're affected by, then assessing your environment to see if that's something that you can change, right? Going to a coffee shop or whatever the case may be. Third, productive distractions. So I'm not talking about go play some video games until you are inspired. Unless, of course, you're designing video games.
Sure.
But productively, go into the space in which you need to design for.
Okay.
Right? I need to design a blender. Go to the kitchen. Go to the environment in which this needs to live, and potentially distract yourself by playing with the existing toys, with forms. Distract yourself productively, and then get back to it when you're able to. And then lastly, divergent exploration. So what does that mean? Sir Ken Robinson had a great video about 11 or 12 years ago that explored this in a little bit. It's the ability to think of, basically approach the problem from the sideways. If I need to design a paperclip, can the paperclip be 100 feet tall and made out of foam? Is the example he gives. Divergent thinking almost in a silly manner, because the problems we try to tackle are not in the back of the book. That's not where the solution is, even though that's what we've been taught in our entire developing years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're not allowed to look, and you can't talk to anybody because that's cheating.
Yeah.
And we get into the real world, and that's in fact the opposite, right? One, there's no clear answer, and also typically encourage that you go talk to people and get collaboration. And so, approaching the problem sideways and exploring the silly. For
Mm-hmm.
me, that what that looks like is I draw little penguins. I have for years. I leave them around the house with little notes saying "I love you" to my wife, and in her car when she was able to drive.
Fun.
And I draw my penguin playing with the product I'm trying to design for.
Okay.
And just by doing that, sometimes it starts that process of whether mechanically me drawing or gets inspired by how that penguin was holding that product or whatever the case may be, it starts the process.
Starts it.
So, what about you guys?
Okay. All right. That's what I was going to say. You've preached to us. We're starting our 5-minute timer. Now, Justin and I, let's go off of it. So, first off, I'm going to give you the mic, Justin, as far as when you hit the brick wall and you're blank. We've heard a few different tactics that Andre has as far as how can you get over that hump, how can you get the juices flowing again, but what's your go-to method of getting back into the designer flow, man?
Hey, nothing profound. Andre hit
Nothing
it. I
profound.
think that, yeah, I think you need to get up and leave the house or the office. I think that the two things he said that resonate. I know that when I was younger and I hit that bottom end, my one boss had said, "Why aren't you at a movie? Like, why don't like what are you doing sitting here? Do you think the answer is going to come to you from that desk?" So definitely like leaving the office and changing environments, going for
Okay.
a walk, super important. And then lastly, yeah, I think what he had said, like, it doesn't have to be like formal research. I think just immersion, or like I used to call it, active observation. So if you're designing, fall protection, you're riding your bike to work instead of driving, and you just look at buildings that are in early state, or you're just checking things out, right? So I think just active observation around the subject matter.
Definitely. If I were to give my younger self some advice when it comes to burnout and feeling overwhelmed with my work, I think definitely knowing there's that threshold, right, that you're gonna hit where the your productivity is going to start to taper off, where muscling through it and focusing and trying still isn't. You can only put so much in, and then your output is going to taper off. So yes, knowing what that limit is important. Knowing when to stop and do something that recharges your batteries. And I think that's ultimately up to you to find out what that is. If that's going to church, if it's going for a walk, if it's going to a movie and unwinding, that's super important. But I think that what is important is to figure out where that limit is and push yourself to it. I know that we can grind and grind and grind, and ultimately the blade will get dull and you have to stop and sharpen it. But I think that some of the best work that I've done has come from pushing myself to the limit, then stopping, taking my break, going and doing something else, unplugging, spending time with family. And then when I wake up and I'm in the shower the next morning, or I'm doing something else completely unrelated, then you just get in the flow and it clicks. So I almost would say that getting to the limit is an important element, an important variable to getting that breakthrough that you need. So don't be a weenie and call it quits too early, I guess. I don't know. Is that a weird thing to say? Just like sometimes to get the flow, you got to push to the limit. Don't cheap out and be lazy. You have to dig deep. When you're doing reps at the bench, it's those last few reps. You get somebody in there to help you out and spot you. So have your support system, but push to the limit and make it happen, right? Justin's clapping. Andre, go ahead and tell me your thoughts on that.
I was gonna say, like, part of that limit, right, is also learning where that value add is in fact that limit, right? Is putting out one more sketch just for the sake of it, is that really value add, or is this good for you, right? Or good for the process, good for your company. And that's where finding those limits and making sure that you're in a good place, that the process is that you're actively participating in is contributing appropriately.
Cool.
Because what typically is really good for you is good for your company.
Yeah,
Mm,
and remember, it's not up there. Like if you're sitting there with no ideas, it's because there's no new information, right?
right.
So
And
even
beating your head
reading,
against the wall ain't gonna do it.
Ain't gonna
yeah,
fix
like
it.
we've all tried to shake the pen harder and nothing comes out. And I think it's like you could even put in something that is just, somewhat applicable or just, any kind of inspiration is good, right? So it's definitely
Yeah.
not up there if you're sitting at the desk, that's for sure.
Other few points that if I were going to say, if I'm trying to jumpstart my creativity, yeah, that's a good one. Taking a break and going out there. The other things that I say help a lot when you're struggling with creativity is to do a small exercise. If you're trying to, tackle this monumental Everest task, break it down into a smaller exercise that may or may not be connected to the project that you're doing, and then put some limits on yourself. So you're like, oh, here's my one. Oh, I didn't hear my 1 minute thing go off. Did you guys? Maybe I missed it. Okay, that's our time for that. My only point was to say put limits on yourself, do other exercises, see what you can come up with if you take a rubber band, a paper clip, and a piece of chewing gum and put it together and play with something else for a while to get the juices flowing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Andre, for helping us lead that Food for Thought segment. I wanted to do something else today as well. There are people who enjoy chocolate upon chocolate upon chocolate, and there are people like me who enjoy cheese upon cheese upon cheese. So to play off of that little pun right there, we're going to do something fun here on The Variable today, and we are going to have our own little game show. Right now, we are going to have Getting to Know You featuring Justin Adleff. Justin is going to be in the hot seat today. We have our hosts come on all the time and you spout wisdom and it's fantastic, but people don't really know you that much. And I want to give them an opportunity to do that. So while I got you in the hot seat here, Justin, I want to hear 2 truths and a lie. And Andrea and I are going to try and pick it out. So go ahead, buddy. What's your 2 truths and a lie?
Okay. I guess staying in theme here. So let's see. I love industrial design, and I studied at Rochester Institute of Technology.
Okay.
That would be number 1. Number 2 would be that I actually was on a career path of becoming an astronaut when I came across industrial design, and I decided to shift focuses.
What?
The last one is that I used to be a mountaineer and rappel upside down off of like train trestles, and once I had kids,
You had to stop.
I all of a sudden fell. Yeah, I all of a sudden felt scared of heights.
Okay.
That's number 3.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Andre,
Holy smokes.
what's total BS here? Like, okay, first off, I know you love industrial design, so not the first one.
My money is on no one says train trestles unless they know what train trestles are.
Yeah, I don't have no idea what the heck that is.
I'm gonna go with astronaut.
So on the path to being an astronaut, if that's the truth, dude, I'm like mind blown. Yeah, so we're gonna say number 2 is the lie.
Yeah, you're right.
We're right. We are right. We got it.
So that means you stopped doing the mountaineering. How long ago did you stop?
Probably 7, 8 years ago. Yeah, or
Okay.
more than that. Probably 10 since I had my first kid.
Wow.
Thanks so much, Justin.
Yeah, there you go.
It's funny.
Not on a track to be an astronaut. Well, while I've got the mic over at you, Justin, we're going to ask you to give us a little spotlight. We'd like to have a featured studio/job opening, and just so happens where you're at, they have some opportunities. And so why don't you share with us a little bit about Eaton and the position that they have available there. Take it away, man.
Yeah, thanks, Russ. This is cool. It's a lot of talking for me today. I got to get my
Yeah.
gump up here. Yeah, so I'm gonna read a little bit about Eaton because it's said right, and they live up to it. It's so Eaton Corporation. It's a global corporation, and we do power management. From their website, if you go to eaton.com, we're dedicated to improving people's lives and the environment with power management technologies that are more reliable, efficient, safe, and sustainable. Some keywords you can look up that I think are important is Brightlayer as a technology piece. Energy transition would be something you could Google relative to Eaton. And then carbon neutral goals for Eaton. So they have a very high benchmark for sustainability goals. So that's that. My team we're a center of excellence. So we're like subject matter experts for design at Eaton. They call it Center of Excellences. And that just positions us to kind of build the capability, the design capability kind of global. That's what our team works on. So we engage in projects, we do design work, and then we also have a platform where we're trying to build that to scale the design around the world, and then of course just propagate design as a culture is a big part of our mission also. So
Okay.
our team Studio Blue is located here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We are looking for an industrial designer, a staff level industrial designer in Pittsburgh. We're also looking for one to join our team in probably Shanghai. We started building a team in the
Uh-huh.
APAC region probably last year, and so that's a team of awesome people that is growing. And then we have all levels of positions open for UX UI, and our UX UI designers are primarily like really great UI designers. And then we have that component of research on top of it.
Okay.
Important to mention nowadays, it's not strictly UX design as research. And then we also have a position open for, I think it's another staff level position, just below senior level for a design thinking strategist. And I will drop a name on you for that. You can look up Lindsay Quinter, Quinter on LinkedIn, and you can write her and tell her that you heard about this from The Variable and mention Justin Adleff. And frankly, you can contact me through LinkedIn or whatever, and just mention The Variable again, and just for any of those positions. Yeah. Any questions about our company or our culture or anything like that from anybody?
Sweet.
Andre, Russell? I don't know
Yeah.
what the time block
I
is
don't
here.
know. I don't know. I
Oh,
think
I
we're
do.
okay. One question, then Andre. I was just gonna say, by mentioning The Variable, does that like get you moved to the top? Does that make you? Does that
100%.
sing? So yes.
That's
So
it.
there you go. Perk of being a subscriber to The Variable is when you apply for a job and you throw our name in it, boom, you're at the top. Sorry, go ahead, Andre.
100%.
So we heard the titles of what you're
Yep.
looking for, right?
Yep.
Can you give us an idea of who you are looking for?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll speak directly to industrial design because I know that the best, and we're on short time. Our industrial designers right now, it's a staff of senior level designers, and I'd say some of the, everybody is themselves. They kind of contribute how they contribute, and that's awesome for us is to have that kind of diversity in opinions and experiences. But I think that really the elements that I think are really strong is to be a maker, to understand materials, somebody who builds. You know, we're not designing like gear for the outdoors, right? We're designing power management equipment, and I think it's definitely a technical topic, and it's definitely something that you have to kind of dig in on. And so, like, it's not something that everybody knows right out of the chute, right? So if you can go home and you can replace your receptacles, then you're starting to kind of touch base with what we're talking about. So I definitely appreciate designers that can make and model and build in 3D. Other than that, all the rest is always a bonus to bring to bear what you bring to bear personally,
Excellent.
Sweet.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. All right, everybody. It is now. There's our featured studio, Eaton. Justin, thank you for sharing that opportunity with us. Like you said, everybody, reach out to him directly, it was Lindsay Quinter on LinkedIn to move forward with the opportunities. Okay. Well, like I said, we're having a cheesy episode today, and rather than giving you guys another high-octane introduction to our guest speaker, I'm going to have co-hosts, invite him up on the stage, and we're going to go about this. We're going through a little different mental journey here. Welcome to the lobby of the Variable Hotel as we make our way across the hotel lobby towards the elevators. We just might happen to run into somebody as we go and push that button, Here, let's see if we can get him on the stage. There we go. Stepping on in.
You were not kidding.
Yeah, 13th floor, please. Oh, all right, thank you, man. Appreciate that. Thanks for pushing that button for me. Yeah.
Russell.
Oh my goodness, Dave? Is that you, Dave Holy Joseph? Hey, you so came on the show when we had John Mariello, and holy cow, yeah. Good to see you, buddy. Hey, we find ourselves here in this elevator. I figure it just makes sense for us to give you the floor and allow you to give us your pitch, man. It's almost as if we have 1 minute and 8 seconds to reach our destination.
It's funny.
So it's either going to be a very fast talking or very long ride. What was that?
Well, can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, we certainly can.
Awesome. So I sort of split my time between two things.
Okay.
One is a industrial design studio that I founded a year ago or so called Camp, and the other is a startup in the tech space that I founded 5 years ago called Ovie. And at Ovie, we design products that makes people more successful in their kitchen by connecting them with their food.
Ooh.
So we're working to solve the problem of food waste in homes with physical and digital tracking systems. Our products are designed to integrate into any food storage container or refrigerator, provide visual, digital notifications to help families with remembering their food, and deliver customized recipes designed to inspire them to eat their food while it's still fresh.
Oh, that's very, very cool.
That's awesome.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on the elevator, man. Why don't we continue our conversation on this floor?
That's officially the first time I've ever done any improv. So.
Oh my goodness.
I feel.
Well, boom. It was great, everybody. That's what I gotta say. We're back when we're gonna get the energy back in the room. We had our little, smooth ride, but this is exciting to have you in the design break room on the variable. And I gotta say, that was a very well rehearsed elevator pitch, man.
My business partners will be proud of me.
They'll be proud of you
because, I'm the one that is terrible at any sort of direct giving of any pitch, elevator or otherwise.
Great.
We have specific for the actual situations where you run into somebody on an elevator and need to explain yourself. We've talked about that and have versions of how to explain our product.
Up to this point, have they just been like, Dave, for the love of Pete, don't say anything. just hand him a business card and have me talk.
Pretend you don't work at Ovie, please.
Oh, man. Very cool. I thought it was great. Little fun spin on what we generally do. Okay, topic for today's discussion is our no BS guide to startup design. So, and like I said, you were on the show before when we had John Mariello for our live Q&A, and that's how I first, touched base with you. It was great to get to know you on that during that event, and I did some digging as we started prepping for this episode, having you on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like you peel back the layers of the onion and just find all of these neat Easter eggs, and I just got to say, there's few people that I could list off that I think are more competent to talk about this specific topic than you, given your track record. So to start things off, my question is, so we're saying no BS guide to startup design. So let's kick things off by saying, okay, what is the BS that's floating around out there in respect to startup design that we can throw out and demystify and clarify?
I think one thing that's happening right now is everyone's talking about how, you have to get in, time and material work is no longer going to cut it. You have to get into launching your own product because that's where the consistent money is, and that's, how you can maintain stability in that. I think that's just comes from a viewpoint of not having any experience in what it takes to really launch a product.
Sure.
Because it is super uncertain and is no guarantee. I think, especially with the skill sets that we have as industrial designers. I think time and material work, leveraging your skill set in that way is much more guaranteed money than trying to launch a product. Though obviously there's successes and failures in both categories.
Sure.
So it's just a sort of generalization, but I'd say that's kind of one of the BS things I've been hearing lately about, startup.
Okay. Justin, Andre, some thoughts as far as like what's some other BS that goes around when it comes to startups in this category here?
That it's generally unapproachable, or that the biggest, and this is a question to you, Dave, is I hear that it's not worth jumping into for a lot of folks because it's insurmountable or seemingly insurmountable to come across as someone that's actually going to deliver, because there is so much failure in the market.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if you take about a half a second and look at my past, you'll see a glaring failure. We had a successful Kickstarter, but we have yet to deliver on that Kickstarter, and that's a hard thing, and it definitely feels like it's inevitable that like you're going to have some failure at some point. From the perspective of our Kickstarter, it's not failure, it's just a delayed success. Like we will deliver our Kickstarter backers at some point. It's just a matter of when we can do that. So we're working on it for all those backers that might be listening.
Don't worry,
guys.
Hang on, we promise.
Yeah.
So how do you demystify that? How do you? Because I agree, like without the failures, you're not actually trying to push something new, right? That's one of the common outputs of trying something new is failing, and I would argue if you're doing it right, you're failing as well. Ideally, quickly and efficiently, so that you can get to that success. But as far as someone approaching the market, how do you cut through that BS of it's not worth it because there's too much failure, or that I'm not going to be taken seriously because I'm trying to do a startup?
Yeah, I mean, I think one. So you have to be a little bit crazy to think you can succeed at launching a connected IoT product like Ovie is, because if there's so much involved. And I say you have to be crazy. It's almost like you have to not think of it realistically, because if you did, and this is what my partner and I say all the time, it's like if we knew what we knew now 5 years ago when we started, we never would have started it, because it seems so insurmountable. So I think
so you have to be dumb or naive starting in.
Yeah, there's total naivety for sure.
Okay.
So maybe like if you're sitting there thinking like that, the failure scares you, then maybe wait a little bit until you're or maybe wait for a different idea for a product that seems like there's no way it could fail. Like from day one, I felt like, oh, we're just gonna like design this thing and go do a Kickstarter, and we have decks that talk about like shipping product 18 months after we started Ovie, and we're now I don't even know how many months after starting Ovie, in the 50s of months. So like we were a little bit crazy to think that we were going to be successful. And I had thought of starting companies before, and I never did because it seemed like it wasn't going to work. And so maybe part of it is like, if you feel like it's not going to work, then just wait for another idea that might come along, because it's going to be a long grind. And if you're nervous and biting your nails along the whole road, that's not going to be a good thing.
Oh, good bit of wisdom right there. It's not oh man, I can just resonate with that so much, because I myself ran a Kickstarter campaign, and I've seen those decks where we're like, oh, we're just gonna crank it out in X amount of time, and so it definitely takes a lot longer. and there's a lot more to it, but I don't mean to cast like this gray blanket over entrepreneurs out there listening in either
Sure.
here on Clubhouse or out there in YouTube land. There's opportunity, and you are, as an industrial designer, empowered to be successful, probably more so than any other kind of a creative field. But I would piggyback off of all of that's been said right now by definitely saying, if you've just graduated and you think, oh, I have all the tool sets that's necessary to execute the business of design, manufacture this and do it, go at it alone, you're about to have a rude awakening. It takes a team, takes a village to bring something to fruition, and you got to have a lot of patience. So if you're like living paycheck to paycheck and you're thinking, oh, well, I'll just launch a Kickstarter campaign and we'll design some awesome product that people are just going to be interested in buying, maybe you should have a plan B. At least that's my thought. Okay. So moving on, you were with Ignite for a number of years. And then you transitioned into minimal design when Ignite was acquired by Newell Brands. And after about a year of minimal, you ventured off and started your own thing. So having done that, can you paint a clear picture for us of what it's like when you are stepping out and starting up your own consultancy? The good, the bad. I'd love to hear, what was a major win moment when you struck out on your own, and then tell us about some of your, oh my gosh, I'm like freaking drowning moments that have happened as you've been doing your own thing.
Great. There's a lot of emotional baggage.
Oh, okay. Hopefully there's equal major win moments and oh my gosh, I'm drowning moments, but go ahead.
So I like to say that when you stepping out on your own is like this big step off a cliff moment that feels dramatic and scary, and where am I going to get the money to pay my bills and do everything, and that there was a lot of the reason I started design consulting was to do exactly that, to pay my bills, and that's how I've supported my family through all this. And luckily, that's grown and developed into a great studio camp.
Yeah, man.
But there's this feeling like a few months into it, maybe it was like this. So we started in January 1st of 2017, and I believe it was 2017. And then that summer, so a few months later, it was my business partner Ty and I, Ty Thompson, and we're sitting out in Chicago on the river, eating a sandwich or something at lunch, and we're looking at everybody walking around, like hurrying back to their offices, and we're like, man, I feel like we got a hall pass for life. Like the teacher was like, here you go. This will get you past the, hall monitors, and you can go do whatever you want. And we just never had to go back to class. And that, it's that sort of like feeling of freedom and self destiny. Like you get to make it for you. If you want to work extra hard, you can get extra stuff done, and you'll be rewarded equally. Or if you want to take it easy and stay a couple extra days on that vacation, it's not like there's a piece of paper asking you to get back on time. So I think the big wins for me are like more in that sort of mentality or lifestyle of feeling less pressure, though it's different type of pressure.
Sure.
So speaking of vacations, the sort of like one of the biggest low points was so Ovie has always had some money in the bank. We've raised money, and we've had a Kickstarter and all that, but that money is pretty much just stayed in the business accounts, and we use it for business expenses.
Sure.
But every now and then we've had to take personal draws off that a little bit here and there, just to pay the bills along the way. And one such situation, it was in the minivan driving back from Florida, and we had this long vacation, and then it was like the end of the month, a couple bills came through, like health insurance and the mortgage and whatever, and all of a sudden it was like my bank account literally was at like
empty.
$5.
Yes.
Like I was probably negative $20 probably.
He overdrafted.
So I'm at the gas station. My kids are in the car. Wife's in the passenger seat. I call my business partner Ty, and I'm like, could you put some money in my account so I can get
Please.
gas, so I can get home? I'm in Georgia right now.
Oh man.
Yeah, those are hard moments of like, man, just literally scraping the bottom of the barrel. But luckily, things have consistency is been attained with camp, and you know, I'm able to. Those days are behind me. Knock on
Sure.
wood,
Well, that's
for the
good.
most part.
Very good. Oh man. Well, kudos to you for being able to stick with it and so forth. That totally resonates with me. I've had those somber moments where you look at your bank balance and you're like, and here's the last time here's the last withdrawal from savings into checking,
Hmm.
and after this there is no more money. How the heck am I going to get another client?
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's a good question. So when you hit that rock bottom right there, luckily, I mean, you had a little bit, you were able to call your buddy, hey, can you please get me some gas money? And I think all of us
Right.
have people who love us, who care about us. Mom, can you like send me $50 for gas? But somebody
Yeah.
is there to help bail you out in those moments. But when you hit that moment at the bottom and you're like, okay, I got to do something. What is your strategy then to move forward and be like, okay, I have to get another client within like 3 days so that I can execute it, net 30 terms and whatever, and have enough
Hmm.
to make it through my mortgage? Like, what does your brain instantly start thinking about doing, and what's your strategy?
It's a good question. So I think one of I've never been very good at like new client development or anything like that. My sales techniques are terrible at best.
Okay.
I get most of my clients through referrals and through continuing, carry on work. So I
Okay.
think to answer that question, the best way that I've gone about that is to call past clients or email them or text them or whatever the typical means of communication might be, and just kind of say, hey, basically just rattle all
We
the
have some
trees and see
availability.
what falls out. Yeah,
Yeah.
like exactly. Hey, make it seem real,
Real
uh,
corporate, real. We're not
positive and
thirsty.
everything. Yeah, yeah, right. Just want to give you the first opportunity to take some of this availability that the team has, that kind
Sure.
of thing. And then also there's always, oftentimes, I shouldn't say always, but almost all the time, there's like somebody that reached out a couple weeks ago or a month ago and with an idea for a project, and they're like, we'll get back to you, and I haven't heard from them, or they're trying to
Sure.
figure something out. So like trying to close one of those like projects that are already out there is
Okay.
oftentimes way easier than like starting from scratch
Yeah.
on a new project, because oftentimes in the world that we live in, like of product design, you're looking at long lead times with a lot of money investment, and it's not an easy thing
Uh-huh.
for a corporation to be like, oh, what, like, sure, let's just start now. So if it's already sort of the ball's already rolling, maybe it's been in their court for a bit, popping in and saying, hey, did you ever get that approval? It might get them to like bug
Oh
their
yeah.
boss and get the
Crud.
approval done quicker, or
Yeah.
something. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very good. Justin, Andre, any thoughts or things you want to pipe in and add on that?
Yeah, I have a kind of a funny question. I'm just listening to Dave and reminiscing when I tried to do what he's doing. Um, but one thing I thought I'd ask you, because it was kind of fun in my situation, was just what are the other things that you've done to network yourself that are outside of an obvious bubble? And I think that the one thing I think of is like, did you join a golf club? You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
kind of the funny one. But yeah, what are some other ways that you've networked outside of design, outside of business, that have maybe brought you in, generated some leads?
Mm.
It's a good question. So I didn't join a golf club, although I wish I
Okay.
had. Um,
That's
I
right.
I do try to be very active in the design community, going to design events when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, and or at least, participating digitally whenever I can. And I'm a big proponent of that, getting involved online where you can and as much as you can with as much um, heart and truth behind your involvement. And I think that's really important. I think more specifically to answer your question, I found that's interesting in the startup world. I've been connected to a lot of different people with, the world of people trying to start businesses is full of opportunities for people that need products designed. So, in a weird way, my involvement with Ovie, I try not to like pitch camp work when I'm at at an event as Ovie, but because that comes off the wrong way. But I think there's a lot of people in the startup world that are looking for design work outside of investors. So if I might, we have an advisor on the Ovie advisory board or someone that's invested. That person is going to be very deeply connected, potential with other people that don't have an industrial designer as a founder, and they're looking for someone to design a product. So I've gotten some work through those connections as well. That's pretty obscure answer to your question, but I think that's about as good as I can do.
I don't think it is. I think that's what people need to hear is that,
Yeah.
if you're sitting there alone because you want to go climb a mountain, it's because all the people who are out there climbing the mountains are the ones you want to meet, right? So you got to kind of go to the mountain to meet that partner, right? So
Yeah,
I think it's cool, and it just makes me when I was in business early on, we obviously didn't even have the money to golf, and I don't golf anyways, but we did partner with this guy who it was like his key strategy was like to golf, and he joined like a sports fitness club or whatever, which wasn't even in our ethos, and but I remember him being able to sell us better than us. And then I remember like some circular things that happened through his relationships of people we bumped into. So yeah, I think that's a good thing to talk about when you start talking about networking.
Yeah, good point.
Tangentially, Dave, has location played a role in that? Something I noticed when I was working in Arizona versus in Seattle and now Colorado, there's a significant difference of the people you would meet in those different locations. And I'm wondering if you had a similar experience where, people thinking, oh, if I'm going to do a startup, I need to move to San Francisco. Is that BS?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you can build a startup in Chicago, but if you want serious funding for a tech startup, you either need to, have a co-founder or, hire a money manager in San Francisco or, some, some West Coast area like that, because I think, but raising money in Chicago is not easy. And I'll say that, and someone's going to be like, "Well, I did it." So,
Right.
I mean, obviously, it's different for everybody.
Cue the
but
trolls.
We've had a lot of issues raising capital in Chicago. I say that having raised significant amount of money, but the stories we hear about, like, oh yeah, you just go pitch to these 3 rooms of people, and they connect you to these people, and that just doesn't happen in Chicago. And there's a I wouldn't call it fear, but a hesitation around tech and hardware in Chicago that doesn't exist in San Francisco.
Okay. Very good. Food for thought for you guys as far as that goes. I mean, we've covered, if you're just tuning in, thanks for joining us here on the Variable Live. Talking about, some other ways to get in connection with potential clients. When you hit rock bottom, how do you get back up again and get some work generated? So we've heard some good stuff. Overall, I think that what we've discussed is just good marketing. Justin, you're talking about join a golf club. If you find out, it's kind of like when you're setting up some social media campaign. If everybody who buys your product happens to drive a black minivan, then you're going to set those search parameters to be specifically honed in on those kind of people. Well, if all of your clients are at these events, go there, be there, connect with people. Networking is super important. And I don't know, it's still up in the air. We didn't really settle on as far as like location. I think location, we can say honestly helps with certain things. You're talking about challenges of investment and so forth in Chicago, but obviously you've done it, and that does segue right into one of the questions that I had for you. Well, we know we won't flatter ourselves and somehow think that guests who come on here and present only come on The Variable. They've been on other shows. And so you were on the Minor Details podcast, and during that interview, you did mention So to give people context, you did talk about angel investors versus venture capital. What are the differences and so forth? And so there are differences. And I guess my question, I want to know, like, at what point did you know that going that route and seeking for angel investors, like that was a good choice? Like, what are the, I don't know. Is it right out the gate a good time to start pitching and trying to get in contact with those people? Is it a little bit later when things are further in development? What has your experience been like, and what has contributed to being able to successfully generate funds in a challenging place where it's where it can be hard?
Yeah, that's a whole other thing, and I think
Yeah.
there's it's like a whole job on top of the other job that raising capital, and I think the best so there's even a third type, which is like friends and family, or what are they called?
Sure.
Friends and fools, or something like
Friends and
that. It's basically the first people that invest that you have a personal connection to, that you can
Sure.
reach out and say, hey, you're looking for $5,000, $10,000, maybe $1,000 from people, and you don't know what the company's worth yet, so you can't really go to angel investors. Typically, they want to have what's called a priced round, which means you've put a valuation on your company. So you don't really know what it's worth, and you also need some money to get off the ground. You need to spend some money on a prototype, a very nice prototype, or you need to maybe hire an app developer to do something, or maybe you need a PCB board. You need to spend some money just to get your business to the point where you can go to angel investors and pitch. So I always recommend people start out with friends and family.
Okay.
And there's a lot of different tools you can use for investment, and the one that we chose was a convertible safe note, which is essentially you're saying, we don't know what the company is going to be worth, but when we do, we'll take your shares and we'll take your money and convert it into shares at a given discount. So we find out the company's worth $5 million. You get it, your shares, instead of getting X percentage of 5 million, you get X percentage plus 20% at 5 million. So it's like a way of rewarding them for their early investment, but you don't get shoehorned into a tiny valuation because it's just two of you sitting on your couch, which has zero valuation, right?
Right.
So that's always the right first start. And then the decision to go to angels before venture capital. Angel investors are really investing, as I've come to learn, really investing in the founders and their vision, and not so much on the business and the potential success of the business. Okay. So if there, it's easier to you need less results to get an angel investor than a venture capital investor.
They're easier to convince.
Yeah,
you gotta have to have a nice personality and be likable. So
yeah.
So if you're a grump, get somebody to be your front man.
Exactly. You have to show passion. So these people are just like, wow, these guys are, they got gusto, and I think they could do something. I'm not sure what it is yet, but
okay.
Here's $50,000 or whatever. But a venture capital really is looking, from what we've found in the hardware space, which is anything that an industrial designer would be involved in. They're looking for revenue. So they want to see that you've produced a product and you've sold it, and you can say that, hey, it took us, $30 to land this customer through all of our advertising funnel. So the cost to acquisition for a customer is $30, and we can sell our product for $100, and it costs us $30. So, we're $60 all in, and we make a $40 profit on every sale. And you can see we started that this day, and it just has gone up and up and up and up and up. And the more money we pour into that funnel, the sales funnel, the more times we spend $30, the more people we get, and we can scale this to the moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have product to sell and you haven't done that yet, you can't. Venture capital really needs to see that, or
Yeah.
especially now, they're a little bit. Maybe I should say, especially in Chicago. So we've never had any venture capital up to this point interested in us. They always say, "Come back when you've got product in the market, when you can show traction."
Sure.
So we've relied on angel investors.
Angel
Really, so
investors
far.
up to this point. Well, that's great. And see, this is last episode. I gave myself the metaphor of being the little kid wading in the small end of the kiddie pool while everybody else is out there in the deep end. And certainly when it comes to generating funds and investment, I've been the guy on the back end who just like, I'm in charge of helping with the design and everybody else is out there getting the money and whatnot. And so this is kind of interesting for me. Just open invitation. If there's somebody out in the audience who has specific questions about that, they're more than welcome to raise their hand. Andre, I saw you snagged the mic for a second. Why don't you go with that?
Yeah, can you demystify something for me, specifically around strategy? So you said some folks are more they're investing in the person and or the group. Some folks are invested in the metrics, right? The business strategy and the results.
Mm-hmm.
Well, taking that step back, what about strategy of the idea? So we hear a lot about, hey, the whole point of our startup is to get acquired. That's our strategy. It's not actually to make the thing, it's to eventually get bought by, the behemoths in the industry. How have you navigated that? What does that look like?
I'll try to answer. I think I know what you're asking. So if any investor ever asks you, like, would you be willing to sell this business? If you want money from them, you better say yes, because that's the only reason they're giving you money is so that you eventually sell the company and their money gets multiplied by whatever the increase in value between their investment and your eventual sale. So if you say, like, I don't know, I don't really think I'd ever want to sell it, they're going to walk away pretty quickly. So
Nope.
you kind of always have to. I mean, you could say it in a way that's like, we're really passionate about what we do, but if the right amount of money comes through, you don't have to be like, yeah, we're just waiting for someone to offer us money. But it's the one time that you kind of want to not, be really passionate about keeping your business forever, because that means that your investor would never get any money out of it. So
if I'm hearing that right, I'm okay bringing this to fruition and this being my job and retiring as a wise old designer selling my widget. Or if the right thing comes along, then I'll sign on the dotted line.
yeah, right. And you could even take it and say, like, I'm passionate about building products in this category, and if the right number comes along, I can always shift and look at a different opportunity that's in the category. So in other words, like, I'll sell this business and start another one.
My goodness, man. Lots of good stuff. I see Justin clapping over there. There's so many more things. The show is the design break room because break is only so long before we have to get back to our cubicles and get back to the grind. So unfortunately, man, we got so much information as far as like, Kickstarter. We talked about investment and so many good things. I've certainly learned a lot about the realities of startup design and so forth. But I want to ask you now the question that we do every single episode, and then we'll open up the mic for other follow-up questions. But Dave, tell us, what is your variable? Meaning, like, what is that one thing that is your tried and true go-to solution that you've used over and over again throughout your career that has helped you become the designer or even the person in general that you are today? What's your variable?
I got to stick with design, because if I open it up to just me as a person, that would take forever. So,
Okay.
I think my variable as a designer is in translating from, like, engaging sketch to engaging CAD model. I found through my experience so often translating a great looking sketch into CAD is, you lose something. Like there's a magic to a sketch, and then it get into CAD, and it sort of loses that, intrigue that it had or whatever. So I've always prided myself on the ability to build CAD quickly and, maintain that, unknown thing that Sketch had that everyone loved.
Okay.
Also, the style spline in SolidWorks would be my variable.
That's your magic bullet right there is the style spline.
Yeah, I didn't see
how to.
Neither did I.
Style spline. You're good. You got it.
There you go, folks. Style spline. That's gonna make the difference.
I'm not even kidding.
Well, yeah, man. Like, it's interesting, and that's why I love hearing everybody's. When we ask what's your variable, they get their own. Everybody has their own take on it, their own thing that's their go-to. I think that you've got a lot of awesome things for people to learn from your journey in design. If people have questions or would like to know about you, your company, and so forth, how can they get in touch with you, Dave?
So Instagram's the best way. My Instagram is at DaveJoseph_ID. You can reach Ovie's Instagram at Fridge Smarter, pardon me. And Camp is We Are Camp. We Are Camp at We Are Camp.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, real quick. So you have your camp, your design consultancy. Do you guys have any kind of junior positions ever that come up, or availability for freelance work for those who are possibly interested in connecting with you in that respect?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we're always open to interview junior designers. It's all non-local, remote work at the moment. So that opens the possibility for international designers as well. We've had people from all over the world helping out with camp, and we're a team that fluctuates based on project needs. But we go from anywhere from 3 studio members up to we've had 6 at one time. So.
Wow.
So anyone that's interested, also I'm taking applications for internships this summer through.
Good.
Those would be like official school internships, obviously, for credit on top of the regular designers.
Fantastic. Well, okay, Dave Joseph, thank you for joining us here on The Variable Man. It's been great having you here on the show. Appreciate you taking time to be here.
And, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Good. One last thing that we'll say to everybody who's tuning in, we encourage you to, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to push the button. Hit that subscribe button down below if you're tuning in from YouTube. If you're listening later on the replay, join us next week when we are on Clubhouse. We'd love to have you come and chat. One of the perks of joining us on Clubhouse is after the show is finished, we open up the mics and everybody's able to ask just a few more questions from our guest speaker, pick from their knowledge and experience. So it's definitely a lot of fun having you guys interact and stick around. We do take content that is after we go offline, and we put it and make it available for Patreon supporters. So if you go to patreon.com/thevariabledesign and support us, that will all be unlocked. You'll have access to it in addition to other content that we're putting together, some exciting things. So stay tuned for all of those. If you guys have questions and you would like to reach out to me, you are always welcome to text me directly at 612-405-0726. Love to help you guys out when you're seeking internships and making connections. That's why we have people like Dave come on the show and we ask them about it. If we have opportunity to help make an introduction, I love to do that. And I know that the people who come on this show and participate are the ones that are going to be awesome in the design studio. So you guys are great. We appreciate you and everything you do to make this channel what it is. Encourage you, continue to support us by telling your friends. If you have a friend in need who is a designer, be the variable, be the good in the community and help them out. We all are who we are today because of mentorship and friends who have told us what to do to make ourselves better. So again, appreciate all of you guys. We will see you next time.